This program is brought to you by the Genesis Communications Network, a world leader in talk radio since 1998. Visit GCNlive.com today.
You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
As we speak, Chris O'Brien is probably motoring his way to a secret habitat in New Mexico or something like that to continue his writing project with David Perkins, I gather. We might actually hear from him during the course of this episode if he has decent cell phone reception. Otherwise, he'll be lost in a digital haze. That's kind of like a transporter beam that doesn't quite get the information, so you end up at the other end of the connection with the head of a fly. Oh no, that was a bad science fiction movie.
Or you end up in the wrong time.
Well, that's it too. Of course, there are a lot of times I'd like to visit, but I'd like to be younger when I get there. So if I go back like 50 years, I want to be 50 years younger. Or if I go 50 years in the future, 50 years younger, that would be interesting. I just wonder here with a transporter, it's supposed to duplicate your molecules exactly. But just imagine here that it could modify you. So when you are reassembled at the other end of the connection, you've got more hair, you're slimmer, more muscular, you're 20 years younger. You kind of develop yourself and have the transporter computer figure out your ideal personality, not just a duplicate, but something better.
Well, instead of the fountain of youth, you'll have the transporter of youth.
I wonder why Star Trek really hasn't focused on that.
Well, funnily enough, I actually just was wasting some time earlier watching, and it was a Star Trek episode involving a classic transporter accident, sent to the wrong time and how do you get back, that kind of thing. They've used that so many times over all the different incarnations.
Well, there's going to be a new Star Trek series from CBS called Star Trek, I guess, Discovery, which is a starship that is before the Enterprise, and it will focus on the first officer to be called Number One, and that was a character that appeared first in The Cage, the first Star Trek episode that was made as a pilot, and then it was disassembled as a two-parter when they got the original series cast. Okay, so the woman who plays Nurse Chapel played Number One.
Yes, I remember.
So her character will be the character.
Majel Barrett.
See, that's the character it'll be based on. So it still observes Star Trek, but Star Trek maybe 10 years ahead of the Captain Kirk era. And so the way it's going to work with CBS is that it'll premiere on the network, and then supposedly you will subscribe to CBS All Access. I think outside the U.S. it'll be on Netflix.
Yeah, probably.
Sure. So I wouldn't even try to project the various licensing. But I don't do that kind of thing. The only subscription service I get is Netflix right now. And I moved into a complex which has fairly inexpensive rents, but free internet and free Dish Network.
Free internet. You can't argue with that, really.
And free Dish Network. But not completely free. You got to pay for the set-top box. So it's free for the service, but to actually get the service, you have to pay $20, $30 a month, which is better than $150 or $200. Now, I want to ask you about that before we get on with our guests and everything. In Scotland, what kind of TV service do they offer there? Satellite like we have here or what?
Just not too long ago, all there was just the terrestrial TV, normal TV. Then cable started coming in really in the 1980s with satellite, late 80s, I suppose, 90s. Then there was a big, what they call Freeview, this first kind of free digital TV. And nowadays, most TV packages like this, they're bound up with the old, you get your landline phone, your Sky television, whatever, and your internet. All those three are always together: the TV, the internet, the broadband, and your landline at home. And various phone companies and what have you are on the go. But so I would say that people do have digital set-top boxes, but you don't really need the old dish anymore. I don't think. Well, people do still have dishes put in, but I've never had satellite myself. But I'm just thinking, I'm sure I know people with Sky, which is a satellite company, but they don't have a dish. So it must come, through the cable, as it were, just like through the internet, I suppose.
Well, here there is probably a dish for Dish Network, but it's at the main office, the clubhouse for this complex, a housing complex. And so everybody has a coax cable here, and that goes through every dwelling. And the same thing with the internet. There's an Ethernet port, at least one in the dwelling, and with a little bit of finagling, I was able to get them to give me 4 for no extra cost. So there's where we go. In any case, it obviously gives us good reception on Skype. Goggs, have you heard at all this story about the fact that they're getting some kind of signal from space that might have some intelligence?
I read just actually tonight on, the Australian podcast, Mysterious Universe. Micah Hanks, Nick Redfern, and people like that quite often write stories there. And it's a great site just to go in and to see who's written what. And I did see one today about it's not SETI or whoever had actually recorded this signal haven't jumped out saying, this is whatever. But the initial thoughts are that it is definitely not anything random. I can't remember. It comes from one of these quite mundanely named star systems, not one of the. I believe in what constellation is it in, Gene?
I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And it says here, I'm looking at the location here, and I have to keep going. And it's not a very far star system. I think it's 94 light years away. Now, if that's the case, then what we're hearing would be 94 years old.
Yeah.
So that being the case, it's getting more interesting there. Of course, we found an Earth-like planet on one of the stars in Alpha Centauri, which is like 4 some odd light years away. Now, unless we have warp drive, this is still a deal breaker because it'll take many years for us to get there and back. Of course, if the aliens are using subspace, then we get the signal immediately if we develop that technology. And if they have warp drive, well, we mentioned this when we were talking to Mark D'Antonio just a few weeks ago on the Paracast, that there is a possibility that we have a burgeoning handle on what warp drive might entail. So possibly in the next, few decades, Zephram Cochrane will be able to invent warp drive, be contacted by the Vulcans, and then it's all over, folks.
Well, I think the whole kind of science right now would look at it as being a problem of we just don't even have near the capability to produce enough energy to warp space. The thinking just now is that to physically warp the fabric of space takes just a ridiculous amount of energy. But
now, I understand that the newest development is much less ridiculous.
Yes, I'd heard that too. But what I was going to say, it wasn't that long ago before we didn't know about atomic power. And atomic power compared to other forms of power, even like steam locomotion or something, just not long before, was just a quantum leap. And who's to say that we don't discover another quantum leap in terms of energy generation? And then these kind of calculations before even doing anything might not seem so far-fetched. But I had heard that maybe somebody had streamlined a design, a theory that may not need anywhere near the kind of amounts of energy that were being talked about. But I don't really know any specifics.
We'll have specifics, but not about that. We have Dr. Robert Davis, who works with experiencer.org. So obviously he does talk to people who've been abducted or had other experiences, but he's also skeptical about the progress being made to figure out what UFOs are. So I think he's speaking my language. Dr. Robert Davis with Goggs, Mackay, and Gene, you're in
the Paracast.
The award-winning Graphic Converter 10, the universal genius for photo editing apps on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for the Swiss Army Knife app. It gives you all the features that you expect, and most important, it's easy to use. You can get it for just $39.95 from www.lemkesoft.com. That's www.lemkesoft.com. Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
You're fired.
According to the Small Business Administration, 75% of small businesses plan to eliminate jobs or reduce workers' hours to part-time.
You're fired.
According to Gallup, the unemployment rate recently jumped to nearly 9%, and the underemployment rate hit a staggering 17.9%.
You're fired.
1 out of 3 young adults and 1 out of 2 recent college graduates are underemployed. Hello, I'm Keith Abel, a pharmacist and a home business entrepreneur. In 2011, I became one of those statistics myself. Instead of looking for another job in corporate America, I joined Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy. We're creating steady incomes for ourselves and would like to show you how to do the same. If you want to supplement your current income, replace your income, so you don't have to become one of the statistics, then give me a call toll-free at 866-257-3105, 866-257-3105.
You're fired.
Don't wait till you hear those words. Start creating an extra income today. 866-257-3105.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Today, how to incorporate your business in just 10 minutes so you won't lose everything if you get sued. Step 1, stop putting it off. If you're not incorporated and someone sues your business tomorrow, it's not just your business at risk. You can lose everything: your home, your car, even your life savings. Step 2, call the following number for a free 10-minute incorporation guide from Incorporate.com. 1-800-914-6977. They don't provide legal or financial advice. They just make incorporating quick and easy. So you can incorporate or form an LLC in just 10 minutes. That number again is 1-800-914-6977. Step 3, congratulate yourself. By taking just 10 minutes to incorporate your business or form an LLC, you protected your home, your car, and your life savings. And that is how you incorporate your business in just 10 minutes. But hurry while they're still giving away these 10-minute incorporation guides for free. Call 1-800-914-6977. That's 1-800-914-6977.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Just want to remind your neighbors that we have a special feature of the show called the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. And what we offer is the commercial-free version of this show. We offer the After the Paracast podcast. We offer show transcripts, videos, a few intro chapters of And My Dog Sing Chopin from Ray Stanford and Chris O'Brien. More features are coming. low subscription rates. And by the way, we got this deal. It might be expired by now. I have a copy of the Gray Barker reprint of The Case for the UFO, the M.K. Jessup book, the annotated version, the Varro edition. And it's in great condition. If you subscribe to the Paracast Plus for a lifetime, you're the first one to order, and let us know if you want to order. We get you that. Also have a complete collection, or almost complete collection, of the Fantastic Universe sci-fi pulp magazine from the 1950s. That's also going to go to the first taker. Otherwise, we have free ebooks from me and Chris. So what can you lose? Plus.theparacast.com. Dr. Robert Davis is someone who's been in and around the UFO field for a while. He's with experiencers.org, which is the Edgar Mitchell organization. And we'll talk to him about that. He's also author of a recent book called The UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe? And we'll want to know about that. And he's given me permission, Dr. Davis, to call him Bob. So, Bob, welcome to the Paracast. I know you're a listener, so you know the routine. Tell us about your background and what led you into the UFO field.
Well, Gene, thank you very much for inviting me on your show. I've been a long time listener. For some reason, I've always been interested in the phenomenon, like millions of others. I'm not entirely sure why. But what really sparked my interest is when my wife and I observed two orange orbs in Sedona, Arizona, back in 2012. And one appeared, round, orange, and then a second one either emerged from it or from behind it. They both remained stationary for a period of time and then eventually winked out. From that moment on, I decided to commit my thoughts, opinions, etc. on paper, and that evolved into the book. From that, I appeared on many radio shows, members of the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. Extraterrestrial is a term I do not like, but will use it anyway. They invited me to be a member of the board of directors and research team of this relatively new foundation. And we have undertaken a very intensive research program trying to better understand the nature of the phenomenon. But briefly, I did receive a doctorate in neuroscience from the Ohio State University and have been a researcher for numerous years. Thus, I try to maintain an objective opinion about this phenomenon, and I'm not going to draw any firm conclusions during our discussion because I have none.
Now, that's an interesting thing here, Bob, because when we had someone representing the foundation maybe a year or two back, I kind of ragged on them for using the word extraterrestrial. I don't know if you remember that particular show. And they didn't change it because nobody listens to me. That's perfectly normal. My wife doesn't listen to me. My son doesn't listen to me. My dog certainly doesn't listen to me. So why should any organization listen to me?
We have a lot in common, apparently. Yes, Ray Hernandez, who's a member, certainly, of the Free Foundation, was on your show. And he's really the brains of the operation. And he does a remarkable job leading the charge, so to speak, and directing our progress. I do not like the term extraterrestrial. Coincidentally, over the past few days, members of our board of directors have been debating about an alternative term to extraterrestrial because there's no clear consensus or confirming evidence that this phenomenon is extraterrestrial in nature. It may be. It may be certainly reflective of numerous types of phenomena, just not entirely.
The thing I want to emphasize here is I kind of think that at the early stages, back to the days of Major Donald Kehoe, that they settled on ET as a process of elimination. Well, it exhibits advanced characteristics of flight. We can't seem to keep up with it. Therefore, it's doing things our craft can't do. It seems to be real. It seems to be solid. It seems to be metallic. Therefore, it must be ET, a process of elimination. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I certainly understand why they label the phenomena using that term. It is understandable. At that time, when the term was applied and stuck through the decades, we did not have a better grasp of the phenomenon, which does have some aspects of the paranormal involved, psychic phenomena of some type. And certainly theories in quantum physics have emerged that attempt to also explain the nature of the phenomenon. So as we learn more about the phenomenon, it becomes less apparent that it is extraterrestrial entirely in nature, although it may be. But if we go back to statements from Jacques Vallée and Alan Hynek and John Mack, among a few others, it's certainly beyond a complex phenomenon that's not only physical in nature, but has a so-called psychic component to it. And we'll hopefully address that issue because some of the results from our research do clearly indicate that. And we're certainly, again, not alone in that regard, as other researchers have came to that same conclusion.
Okay, so let's look at this now. If someone says to you, Bob, I think UFOs are ET, obviously extraterrestrial, and those involved in the disclosure movement kind of say, well, we know they're extraterrestrial, let's just have the government confirm it for us, and we can just sit back and relax. So if you're confronted with this, I think they're ET. We have to do a break in about 1:10, so just let you know. What do you say? We can cover this in this segment and the next. What argument do you pose to them specifically? We can go into detail here that indicates there is more to it than just ET from Alpha Centauri or somewhere.
Well, where's the data that provides irrefutable evidence that it is ET? It's a speculation, despite the contention by many leading ufologists who firmly believe it is ET in nature. And that's what turns me off to ufology in general, among other many things. But the conclusions drawn are made oftentimes on the basis of limited evidence that clearly indicates the nature and origin of this phenomenon, of which we, in my mind, have no firm clue. There's certainly more questions than answers than anything else, and we don't know, of course, the origin of it. But it's almost by process of elimination that it is ET, which is why many people regard it as that in nature, for lack of a better understanding of alternative possibilities, of which we are becoming now more familiar with, and thus extra-dimensional, psychocultural hypotheses, psychic phenomenon, or an aberration of the mind itself, or all combined, among other theories, might be applicable towards explaining the theory.
The book is called The UFO Phenomenon from Robert Davis, Ph.D. More to come with Gene and guest co-host Goggs Mackay. You're in
The Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Can your vitamin supplements positively affect your blood in 5 minutes? Protovite can. Protovite is a genuine breakthrough liquid daily nutrition that delivers quality ingredients into your blood in less than 5 minutes. Scientifically proven and backed by clinical studies, Protovite supports energy, vitality, and optimal health. Watch our 2-minute live blood cell video and see for yourself at vninc.com/prohealth. That's vninc.com/prohealth.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 Pain Hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. Pillows would go flat, I would flip-flop all night long, I would wake up with a sore neck, maybe a headache, or feel like I needed a nap even though I slept 8 hours. When I invented MyPillow, I wanted it to where you could move the patented fill to give you the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of sleep position. MyPillow will get you into that deep REM sleep faster, and you will stay there longer. It's not about how much time we spend in bed, it's about how much of that quality sleep we get. I do all of my own manufacturing right here in the United States. I have a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry my pillow, and I give you a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. And here's my best offer ever. You can buy one of my pillows and get one absolutely free.
Go to mypillow.com or call 800-870-0305 and use promo code GCN. That's mypillow.com or 800-870-0305 with promo code GCN.
Hi, my name is Richard Dolan. You're listening to the Paracast.
The guest co-host is Goggs Mackay. Chris O'Brien is on the road somewhere. If he is near a decent cellular connection, which isn't always certain out there in the wilderness, he'll call in. Robert Davis, PhD, author of The UFO Phenomenon, and as you see, he's not an ET believer. So let's specifically look at this. State some characteristics about UFOs that create the doubt about ET.
Well, I don't dispel the possibility that some aspect of the phenomenon could be from another solar system. We simply can't make any firm conclusion, however, of what the nature of it is. I'm an agnostic, therefore, regarding the phenomenon. After looking at the evidence objectively, I can't commit either to a belief or a non-belief that they're controlled by something that's non-earthly inert. And I don't know, despite, again, the contention of many that they do know. I don't see any firm evidence of that. But obviously their behavior, their kinematic behavior, defies logical explanation. They mitigate laws of inertia and gravity. They have physical effects on individuals as well as psychological effects. And thus, because of the way in which they do not ascribe to current scientific principles, people consider it to represent an advanced civilization, and that's understandable. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, again, that they are light years away from Earth and are coming here for whatever purpose. Again, that may be the case. But I'm not going to stick my neck on the line and say that definitively is. There are many other plausible explanations that might account for the phenomenon, which in my mind is real. And that's the only thing I can say with absolute conviction. This phenomenon is real. The obvious question is the underlying who, what, and why is associated with the phenomenon, and for which I believe we do not have a clue. Again, despite the contention by many researchers in the field that they do. And continually continuing to focus on the retrospective analysis of prior events, like the obvious Roswell and Rendlesham, Phoenix Lights, famous abduction cases, among other noted, well-researched events from the past, we're not going to further our understanding of this enigma. And yet I find it interesting. It's more appealing than watching the political debates on CNN. I enjoy it. But in terms of advancing our understanding of the phenomenon, which should be of paramount importance to the mainstream scientific community, which it unfortunately is not, and which should be engaged more in terms of proper research by ufology organizations, which it is not. We have an associated complex situation which represents a phenomenon that has potential for having significant implications on a personal and societal level that, again, is unfortunately largely ignored, poorly approached.
Hi, Bob. Goggs here. Yeah, I just wanted to come in here and quickly kind of ask you, did you ever have any kind of second thoughts about, giving your name publicly to anything to do with abduction or UFO research, considering that, you could have had a just straight ahead academic career in neuroscience? And, why do you feel able to, or maybe it's easy to ask you why you feel able to be open that you're interested in this subject, but why do you think there's just such resistance in academia to not investigate this subject? Because it's one of the subjects that we could investigate relatively so cheaply, and the payoff could be so big. You think, well, what's the harm in doing it? So to me, when you're preaching to the converted here in terms of, myself and Jean are in total agreement with virtually everything you've said, and I still can't figure out why the scientific community, why far more people at least won't give it a look, and maybe not even stray into abductions or anything that's too kind of edgy, but even just to let's guarantee that we're looking at objects that are created machines that are defying our known laws of physics, etc. So why do you think science still has this reluctance to get involved?
Well, there are obvious issues at hand. One, obviously, is the fear of ridicule by colleagues. John Mack knew that all too well, who had a fight for tenure with the administration of Harvard University for his atypical viewpoints regarding alien abductions, which he eventually believed to be real in nature. Of course, people in academia need to try to get tenure. Thus, they need to publish. There are no scientific refereed journals that will accept any papers on UFO-related topics. Thus, it's an area of research that doesn't have any payoff, let's say, in that regard, in terms of advancement within academia. Plus, research that has been done in the past has yielded limited, if any, success. And thus they may view that lack of conclusive results as the foundation by which research is not worthy of investigation. So, and many regard it obviously as a new age movement of pseudoscience in general, and that's not consistent with their educational background. But I think that the ridicule factor is at the forefront. Although there obviously are several academicians, scholars, and worldwide who are very much engaged in this. We have members on FREE, such as Rudy Shield, the executive director, who's a leading physicist and runs the astrophysics lab at Harvard University. John Klimo, noted psychologist, Dean Radin, who I spoke to recently about the term extraterrestrial, and he doesn't like it either. Who obviously is an authority in parapsychology and related topics. the point is, there are obviously many scientists, both present and past, who have been engaged in research, but it's too few in number. And that's one major reason why the current state of affairs in ufology is begging for an overhaul, in my mind. Yet let me emphasize that I commend all researchers who have spent considerable time and effort trying to understand this phenomenon, and associated organizations who have that same goal. But unless we reestablish some kind of unified governance structure with defined goals and objectives, to also recruit qualified scientists from multidisciplinary areas to engage in a type of research that may not be successful, but at least the attempt should be made, to try to devise a paradigm, a protocol, using current scientific principles and hopefully new ones to be established, which I think are required to better understand this phenomenon. We're not going to make any advancements in the field. And look at the past several decades. What have we learned? We have learned a great deal. There's no question about it. But we're scratching the surface, and we all want the answer, and we're never going to get the answer by continually focusing on issues associated with Roswell and other retrospective events, which are very interesting, intriguing, stimulating. I enjoy listening to it, reading books on it. There's a lot of nonsense out there, obviously, as well as a lot of sense, and the public at large finds it difficult to decipher who and what to believe, and that adds another lack of credibility to ufology.
We've got more to come with Dr. Robert Davis, author of The UFO Phenomenon. And as you see, he's pointing to other possibilities, and I have a few questions for him once he gets past this discussion with Goggs and Mackay. Our guest co-host, you're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
Has your body ever gone low blood sugar, feeling weak, shaky, knowing you better eat something fast? We all know high blood sugar can lead to many metabolic problems. At GCNteam.com, we have a healthy blood sugar pack, focusing on the structure and function of stable blood sugar. Find us at GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Nothing feels worse than unstable blood sugar. Call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Are you happy washing your hands with harsh chemicals? Are you happy doing laundry with detergents? Are you happy paying high prices? Find your happiness with Pure Soap. These all-natural, earth-friendly Pure Soaps are the very best you've ever used. Buy in bulk. Get a 12, 36, or 48-month supply, or get items individually and still save big. You're getting soap products twice as good as what you're using now, earth-friendly and natural soaps. Your family deserves the best. Happiness is 5starsoap.com. Why not put your money up the drain for a change? See them at 5starsoap.com or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog. Cal Ben Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils. See their full selection of soaps at 5starsoap.com. That's F-I-V-E starsoap.com. Or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog.
Has neck, back, or shoulder pain got you down? Go to sunshine-pillows.com and get soothing comfort, support, and pain relief fast. Their microwavable heat therapy pillows and wraps treat neck and shoulder pain, reduce stress, and relax the soul. An ergonomic pillow from Sunshine Pillows supports your head and neck on long trips or when simply resting at home. Be good to yourself. Visit sunshine-pillows.com. sunshine-pillows.com.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Our guest, Robert Davis, Ph.D., we call him Bob, author of the UFO Phenomenon, and we had to do the break, Bob. I interrupted you on your presentation. Would you like to go on before I ask you a fly in the ointment question, okay?
No, go ahead. Please proceed.
Okay, fly in the ointment. Now, this week, by the way, originally, we were going to have James Carey on, who is a former international director of MUFON, author of the Rosetta Deception, and the forthcoming book, The Roswell Deception, and he'll be on in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, Bob, I don't know if you've followed what Carry-On has to say, but he says the ghost rockets of World War II and after, that was kind of a psyops operation where they were kind of fooling or spooking the Russians, and it wasn't really real. And that there is an Office of Strategic Deception that was created that may also be involved with Roswell. It was a deception. There was never a crash ship there. It was all done in the interest of war games, psychological effects during the Cold War. I don't know. Have you heard about this theory?
Yeah, and it relates to the MyLab phenomenon, abductions that are being conducted by let's say earthly individuals for whatever means, and that may very well be the case. It may have been initiated back in the 40s, persisted throughout time, and for whatever reason, who knows? And you know something? I don't care. It's interesting, however, to contemplate, but the point is, it doesn't get at the heart of the matter, and that's where I'm coming from. Let's stop with the retrospective analysis. Let's stop exploring past events, which get us nowhere. Let's stop on this trying to figure out what presidents know about UFOs, so, the historical examination of specific cases, et cetera, et cetera. And we need to be prospective. We need to focus our attention there. One way in doing so, I think, is what Free is doing, among what other researchers, too few in number, have attempted in the past. And if anything, from our research, and eventually we'll get into some of the data, if anything, we're not going to have any answers. We may be able to provide some keen insights that go way above and beyond what we're going to learn about figuring out anything from the Disclosure Project, which is important and very interesting, and I commend those who initiated it, like Greer and Bassett. But nevertheless, we need to try to stimulate interest on the part of the mainstream scientific community to consider this an important concern. And the only way to do this is to generate research in as best a way as possible at the present time, which is not easy to do because there is a lot of issues concerning the validity and the reliability of the methodology that presents issues in terms of formulating concrete conclusions. But nevertheless, we'll attempt to submit our research in refereed scientific journals to, at the very least, wake up the scientific community, to hopefully stimulate their interest, making them more aware of the phenomenon so that they can possibly build upon our research. Eventually, who knows when, more understanding about the associated who, what, and whys of the phenomena may be realized or not. But I can, too much is discussed about the past. Interesting, yes. We learned something, yes. But it's more entertainment as far as I'm concerned than anything else. We're not going to achieve the essential objective, which I just stated. And we need to overhaul ufology. We truly do. How that can be done, no clue. Maybe it's not possible. I'm willing to lead the charge for whatever my 2 cents is worth.
Let's say we're putting the whole of ufology into the washing machine. We're pulling it out. We're getting rid of all the crap. We're no longer looking at these tired old same cases and looking at the same way. As we hang it out in the washing line or whatever, what ideally would you like the new ufology to look like, and how would it be different from the past?
That's an excellent question. I do address that to some extent in my book. Obviously, we have to begin from the top down, try to unify existing organizations worldwide, especially the more credible ones, and try to provide a uniform umbrella, so to speak, where all information or evidence is shared, all databases are shared. There's one spokesperson with an associated team of established leaders across many disciplines who can develop protocol by which we can develop research goals, as well as goals to help inform the scientific community and humanity at large about the importance of this phenomenon, as well as grantsmen who can try, at the very least, to generate funds to maintain this approach. Easier, obviously, said than done, but the main thing here is to not only provide for a competent governance structure, but to recruit appropriate scientists from a wide range of disciplines, from biology, physics, sociology, psychology, philosophy, religion, et cetera, to focus attention on this, develop theories, methodological protocols in many different ways so that we have ongoing research in different ways, not only necessarily with experiences or individuals who claim to have upfront and personal contact with UFOs and non-human intelligent beings, of which there are, of course, many, but in other ways too, in terms of quantum physics. The theoretical nature of this controversial area might lend some insight into what might be going on in terms of dimensional aspects of the phenomenon, as well as paranormal like matters that seem to be also interrelated with this. And we might be looking at a phenomenon that certainly is not just a nuts and bolts craft from Proxima Centauri or wherever, but we may be looking at a phenomenon of which UFOs is just one component part of many. One spoke on a wheel. Maybe they are interrelated with other types of phenomenon, like near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, intuition, ESP, other paranormal, parapsychological, etc. types of phenomena, because we see hints of this in our data, and other researchers have obviously noted this in the past, from Jacques Vallée and even Alan Hynek as well.
Let me throw one thing here, and we can continue our discussion on that basis. Now, one of our occasional guests on the show, and used to be a forum regular, although lately he's been very busy, and that's Red Pill Junkie, a guy named Miguel from Mexico. And he wrote a theory that we featured in the Paracast newsletter, where he shows the comparison between UFO abductions and near-death experiences. Not necessarily unique, but he made a very credible case. In fact, I asked for a guest editorial of maybe 1,000 words or so, and he came up with something many times that, like a large book chapter. And this is an area of focus that has to be considered. The other one is where we go back to the fact that we have these organizations that will come out if you have a sighting. MUFON will send its star team or somebody to talk to you. And the problem has always been, although they claim to be doing better now, the problem has been that when they come out, they're looking at the event as a singular entity unto itself. This is the event, let's figure out what happened, not, well, let's look at the witness. What happened to the witness? Did they have something happen before the UFO, after the UFO, family histories, personal histories? Let's talk about the witness, and can we integrate that? Can we separate UFOs and other psychic events, so-called, from the percipient? And that's a question which I'd like you to focus on because you've done experience or research, and we want to get into more of that in the next segment. Remember to check out plus.theparacast.com for the Paracast Plus. This is, neighbors, the absolute best way, other than donations, of course, to support the work of the Paracast. Goggs Mackay is our guest co-host. Robert Davis is here. More to come. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Introducing the fastest growing digital currency company in the world, OneLife. With over 2.1 million members, OneCoin is becoming the most powerful force in digital currency. It reached over $1 billion in revenue in its first year. No other company has accomplished such an impressive feat. Now you can achieve financial independence with the strength of OneLife. Find out how to build your financial dreams. 877-933-4747. 877-933-4747. Dedicated to helping you create financial abundance.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
So, in keeping with this very fascinating discussion, Bob, you see the issues where I'm talking about here, about
yes,
the interaction between the experiencer and the experience, things like that. that aren't being probed. Would you like to add to it or expand on it?
Gene, that's a very insightful point on your part. And that, I think, should be the essence of future research in terms of, again, trying to understand this phenomenon. At least it's one of several related approaches. But you mentioned the relation, certainly, between UFOs and NDEs. We see that, too, which is very interesting in terms of personal accounts of the experience. And Kenneth Ring, a leading NDE researcher, I think first brought this to the forefront in his book, The Omega Project. We've surveyed over 2,800 individuals who claim to have conscious recall, not hypnotic regression or lucid dreaming or channeling or et cetera, conscious recall. And I'll probably wind up saying that 3 or 4 more times throughout the show. But that's an important aspect of the results. The outcomes in terms of positive transformative behavioral changes resulting from their experience related to before the experience and after the experience is very similar in those who have, again, UFO-related experiences with individuals who report just NDE experiences. And the similarity is remarkable enough to consider it noteworthy. What it means, again, is something else. It's for greater minds to try to figure out. But at the very least, I would think sociologists and psychologists should regard that alone as being, comparatively important. For instance, our results are similar to the results that have been found in individuals who claim to have near-death experiences. Again, this is all claim, anecdotal. And that alone can be dismissed by, many members of the scientific community. But we see similarities. What are they? Positive personal transformation. Their desires in both cases, both experiences, NDEs and UFOs, the desire to help others strongly increased. Over 80% in our surveys have said that. Their compassion for others has strongly increased, about 75%. Their appreciation for ordinary things has strongly increased. So again, we're talking about over 75 to 80%. And I'll stop throwing out the numbers because they're very similar with respect to all this criteria. Their interest in psychic phenomena strongly increased. Their ability to love others in an impersonal way also increased. Sensitivity to suffering of others. Concern for spiritual matters, less interest in organized religion.
It's hard not to see this as a possible kind of engineered awakening, of maybe the human race. Like you start opening people up to new possibilities and hopefully let it filter out through the population. And what do you think about thoughts like that, Bob?
Do you mean, is that possibly the objective of whatever intelligence may be behind the phenomena?
At least in part, yes.
Yeah, we could only speculate, obviously, and we can't make any conclusions. I'm not here to say that I am making conclusions or forcing this data down people's throats, and to emphasize that ET's here and they're abducting humans. That may be true, may not be true, but we can't help ignore the data, which are intriguing and should be taken much more seriously than it already is. The point is, if individuals are being positively transformed, but through their UFO contact experience and interaction with non-human intelligent beings, conscious recall, so they report, we can only speculate that as long as it is vastly positive in nature, may be the objective of whatever is behind it is to elevate consciousness, spirituality of the human race, maybe on a one-by-one basis. That's a logical, I'm not going to say conclusion, or it's a logical suggestion. But we see this. Why do people who have NDEs come away positively transformed? And that's a fact. That's more of a fact than it pertains to UFO data, which in comparison is limited in terms of database and sampling Whereas in NDEs, much more research has been done along these lines. So we can only speculate. Maybe there is something associated with that. The qualitative research we are also doing with the same individuals who participated in our quantitative surveys are elaborating more about this. And what they say is just that, interestingly. The purpose or the major themes that emerge from what they come away with from their experience is elevation of consciousness, the betterment of humanity, become more ecologically sensitive. You guys are messing up the planet. Consciousness is distinct from the brain. There is life after death. There are alternate dimensions. But spirituality, unconditional love, consciousness-associated factors seem to be common elements of what so many are saying. And the question is, why do we see such similarity? Now, the results can certainly be dismissed, discounted, criticized for methodological reasons. I understand that. I do too. I'm a hardcore scientist by training, and I'm well aware of the limitations of survey-based research. But when we have such a large data sample from conscious individuals who during their experience report that to be the case, yet it's anecdotal. It's not irrefutable evidence. It's not tangible, objective evidence. But nevertheless, the large data set, the similarity of feedback says something interesting. And I'm not going to make any conclusions based on that other than to hopefully publicize results, especially when we finish with our qualitative interviews and analysis on the thousands of individuals who are now providing descriptive, we have over 10,000 Word document pages, believe it or not, of these individuals who are providing responses to over 60 related questions about their experience. It's beyond intriguing in terms of the similarity of what they are coming away from the experience with. The implications, the meaning of it is for other minds greater than mine to try to figure out. But I don't think anybody can come up with any firm conclusion, and it would be certainly wrong, premature to do so on the basis of the preliminary results we have thus far. And this is going to be obtained worldwide. We have research going on in Germany, Latin America, other countries. So the database will continue to expand greatly over time. But once we publish our results, hopefully will stimulate much more interest on the part of the scientific community to try to build upon the foundation we're attempting to provide as a means to, again, gain some insights into what is going on, what governs and regulates this phenomenon. And we're not going to have answers in our lifetime. Maybe in our next life we will, so to speak. And I'm now writing a book on life after death, so I can't help but get that concept in.
Let me stop here for a second, Gus. And Goggs, you can go on. All right. We'll have to carry this over a bit to our next segment, but I want to drop in this material. Another fly in the ointment question. Of course, you've gotten consistent results from your surveys. And now we have some abduction researchers, most specifically the late Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs. To them, all abductions, or at least most of the ones they've investigated, involve attempts to make alien-human hybrids. Jacobs calls them hybrids. He thinks this is some kind of program for ET to create a race of hybrids that overwhelms us and eventually does, I guess, a silent takeover of Earth. And it sounds like the makings of a sci-fi movie. Want your reaction in our next segment? We've got Dr. Robert Davis with Gene and Goggs. You're in
the Paracast.
The award-winning Graphic Converter 10, the universal genius for photo editing apps on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for the Swiss Army Knife app. It gives you all the features that you expect, and most important, it's easy to use. You can get it for just $39.95 from www.lemkesoft.com. That's www.lemkesoft.com. Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
For P150, P150GA, P150NY, P150OK, P150TN, C250A, C250E, C250Q. Not available in all states. If New York, call for a similar offer.
What's the scariest thing about going to the dentist? Opening your mouth or opening your wallet? Because just a simple cleaning can cost $100, and things like root canals can cost you hundreds more. If you don't have dental insurance to help, call Physicians Mutual Insurance Company, 1-800-798-4326. This isn't a discount plan or preventive-only coverage. This is real dental insurance that helps pay for checkups right away, so you can call today and get your teeth cleaned tomorrow. Plus, it helps cover the more expensive procedures you might need down the road. Fillings, crowns, bridges, even costly dentures. There's no deductible and no annual maximum. Your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these insurance policies, even if you're retired. There are no networks, so you can choose any dentist you'd like. Call now for a free information kit with all the details. 1-800-798-4326. That's 1-800-798-4326. 1-800-798-4326.
Are you retired or facing retirement and you're afraid your income is going to be less than you'd like? I'm Pharmacist Keith. Dr. Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy, and I want to show you a low-cost way to create your own business working around your current schedule, creating extra income that will last for years to come by joining Dr. Wallach's crusade, spreading his message of better health. To learn more, visit radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com, radio.recordedvideo.com, or call 866-257-3105 for a recorded message.
My computer is so slow, it's making me crazy.
I used to have that problem.
Did you quit using a computer or did you buy a new one?
No, I called Geeks On Site. They made an appointment to visit my home and showed up the same day.
You mean they didn't ask you to bring your computer to a shop? That's what happened when I called a support company.
Geeks On Site can go to your home or business or even repair your computer online. They have 24/7 emergency service.
If you're having problems with your PC or Mac, call Geeks On Site, 1-800-591-1682. Our friendly certified computer repair experts are available 24/7. Call now for a free diagnosis, 1-800-591-1682. Data recovery, virus removal, and maintenance for all laptops, desktops, printers, and networks. That's Geeks On Site for friendly certified computer repair experts, available 24/7 over the phone or in your home or business. Just call 1-800-591-1682. That's 1-800-591-1682, 1-800-591-1682.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So, the question, Dr. Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, what is your opinion, Bob, about their research and their conclusions about hostile alien intent?
I think it's highly inappropriate to make that conclusion. What I do agree with them about is that the so-called alien breeding program, hybridization, does seem to be a component, certainly, of the abduction experience. And, over 500 individuals of the over 2,800 people who we have surveyed make reference to just that in varying ways. And some have even commented that through telepathic communication, which is the standard channel or mode of communication conducted, as we are aware, they're informed They're informed that there's an error with our DNA, and they, so to speak, are here to correct the error to result in, these so-called newborn star children or children who have unique abilities that supposedly are improved based on the current human templates, shall we say. The alien breeding phenomenon is a theme, not as frequent as reported by others like Hopkins and Jacobs, who I respect their work greatly. But again, their data were based on hypnotic regression. I believe it was John Mack who said, the abductee experience varies according to who does the hypnotic regression, which says something about the poor reliability of that technique for memory recall. And we know that's has been well established by the Psychological Association, although it is useful in some respects, but not in terms of accuracy of recall. So much of their data must be interpreted with a high degree of suspicion. I would not interpret it literally, which is why, again, we focused our research on individuals who claim to have conscious recall because of that confounding variable. And if we write this up, and we plan to in scholarly literature, if we say the word hypnotic regression, forget about it. We're up for severe criticism. Yet, nevertheless, we'll be up for severe criticism regardless, given the nature of the information. Yeah.
Bob, do you have any cases in which there may be even a modicum of independent verifications? So if somebody's claiming conscious recall of an abduction, do you have any cases on your books in which, somebody unrelated to that person may have witnessed something that kind of correlates? Or are these all single stories from single people as the sole witness?
Yeah, that's a good point. Single stories from single people, and that again is a limitation which mitigates to some extent the validity of the information. But there may be a reason why, hard to really know for sure. But again, I go back to the number of individuals saying the same thing, the conscious recall of their accounts. But why do so many women claim that during their presence on this craft are handed a baby that looks humanoid but not 100%, and they have a knowingness that it is theirs? Or they're on board the ship and a baby is taken from them when they didn't know they were pregnant. Messages, again, of trying to manipulate our DNA because of inherent errors in it that results in our brains being infallible the way they are, or the nature of humanity over time, which is nothing to be commended about. Maybe we're trying to be upgraded. Mary Rodwell, for instance, a member of the Free, has done a lot of research in this area, and messages of DNA manipulation from abductees comes across in her own personal research too. We do see lines of evidence indicating there is this variable, there is this component piece to the puzzle, and we can only certainly speculate as to what might be going on. Yeah, it happens. DNA, sperm and eggs, people say, yeah, they take it from us. People claim to be sexually engaged by beings, and there's something related to that. Now, look, all of this, everything I've said and will continue to say may all certainly be an aberration of the mind, a psychological disorder we have yet to discover or realize, or not. I'm not throwing anything out the window in terms of possible alternative explanations. Beyond the ET, so-called ET origin or nature to account for this kind of phenomenon. But yeah, we see a DNA component to it. We see missing time pieces to it. We see the NDE piece to it. We see the similarity of beings encountered to it. Humanoid being, by the way, the largest percentage of humanoids, if I'm getting off the topic a little bit, followed by the Greys. Over 50% are humanoid in appearance, not exactly, but humanoid looking. Obviously, the Greys, certainly insectoids, reptilians, we et cetera, et cetera. But there are so many aspects of the phenomenon, like out-of-body experiences. People claim to be taken on board, transported, levitated. They dematerialize, go through solid matter, then appear on a ship, and then they reappear, somewhere in a different location, experiencing missing time. There is information about the spirit world, alternate dimensions, other realities, paranormal-related experiences, consciousness that's different than the brain, information received that informs experiences or abductees that you're going to get the answer in due time. You're not ready, but you're like the chosen one. That's why you're here on board. You should be privileged, and you'll find out the reasons. Yeah, I know you have questions, but you'll find out the reasons, in due time. What that means, who knows? But there are implications or information shared that have to do with the continuity of consciousness following physical death. Please, everybody, don't translate that too literally at this point in time. I'm just saying what information that we're getting. This is a lot different than people from Mars, coming here for whatever reason. There are so many aspects of this phenomenon that Hynek eventually became aware of, as did Mack, as did Vallée, as did John Keel, a few others. Even Grant Cameron now is moving in this direction. I had a very nice conversation with him recently, and I commend him for all his prior work and his evolution in a sense to this aspect of the phenomenon.
Let's break it here. I got a bunch of questions and things, and there's some questions from the audience for Bob. We got more to come with Gene and Goggs. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Will the government protect your family from Iran and North Korea's newest weapon, EMP? We buy guns to protect ourselves, home, health, and car insurance for accidents. Maybe you also have food storage. But how would you keep your refrigerator running in a long-term EMP blackout? Using tested military designs, the Solarc EMP-hardened solar generator protects and powers your critical appliances for years without burying items underground or wrapping them in aluminum foil. Unlike other preps, Solarc is used every day to help offset your electric bill automatically. Visit PortableSolarLLC.com to learn how easily expandable the system is. Solarc is the most affordable and powerful solution on the market. The whole system even fits in the back of a pickup or SUV and can install in less than an hour. See for yourself why Solarc beats other off-grid systems at PortableSolarLLC.com. Don't wait for the government. Go to PortableSolarLLC.com to learn why Solarc is energy insurance for your family.
Are you happy washing your hands with harsh chemicals? Are you happy doing laundry with detergents? Are you happy paying high prices? Find your happiness with Pure Soap. These all-natural, earth-friendly Pure Soaps are the very best you've ever used. Buy in bulk. Get a 12, 36, or 48-month supply, or get items individually and still save big. You're getting soap products twice as good as what you're using now, earth-friendly and natural soaps. Your family deserves the best. Happiness is 5starsoap.com. Why not put your money up the drain for a change? See them at 5starsoap.com or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog. Cal Ben Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils. See their full selection of soaps at 5starsoap.com. That's F-I-V-E starsoap.com. Or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog.
Dr. Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for discovering how cells breathe. He also discovered how normal cells turn into tumor cells. He discovered the one prime cause of cancer was cellular oxygen deficiency. Dr. Joanna Budwig built upon the work of Dr. Warburg and discovered how to feed the cells to overcome this oxygen deficiency. She found that it was the sulfur in the cottage cheese that when mixed with fresh pressed flax oil, that the flax oil would become emulsified and more readily absorbed. Flax oil delivered in this manner was able to restore oxygen transfer to all cells of the body. Now there's a new method of pressing seed oils that produces the highest quality, zero oxidation, undamaged seed oils. The results on these seed oils alone are amazing. Now add our Life Force Enhanced One World Whey Protein Powder that is much higher in the sulfur amino acids than cottage cheese is, and you have a winning combination to confer health and energy like never before. Call 888-988-3325 or visit sacredseedoils.com. That's sacredseedoils.com.
This is Kurt Sotheby, author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
Now, Goggs is going to ask you some questions from our audience in the forums, Bob, and I'm going to ask you to keep your answers a little shorter because it's hard to get a statement in edgewise. So let me throw out possibilities here. Number one is with abductions that the experience is perceived that way, but may not be that. It could be maybe a metaphor for human evolution, that we are changing into what we might call star beings as a result of evolutionary forces. Or if we're getting warnings about the condition of our planet, that's Mother Earth communicating with us, but this is the way we interpret it in a way we understand. Just a couple of possibilities there. Other than, of course, that maybe some abductions are staged by the government to investigate us. What are your reactions to any of this?
Maybe all of the above, maybe none of the above, or little truth to each. It's impossible. It's impossible to add any firm conclusion. And I hate to cop out, please. There's no evidence to support any of that other than the possibility of my labs occurring. And again, strong anecdotal testimony by a lot of people who contend that there is some kind of ongoing specialized, unacknowledged access program, whatever, that might be doing this for whatever reason, who knows. But this is going on for so many decades and centuries, if not throughout eternity, that you can't ascribe the phenomenon to that exclusively. Is it Mother Earth? Maybe, you get to this cosmic unconsciousness. You get into quantum physics and alternate realities, and maybe we're being affected somehow by beings from another dimension.
Bob, But before we go on, earlier on you said that that there are no peer-reviewed scientific journals that will publish papers on anything to do with ufology. How does your organization hope to kind of break through that kind of thing? And any of your research's conclusions, how do you hope to actually filter that out of the ufological community and get the non-ufological scientific community to maybe take note and start making headway into the rest of the planet who isn't into UFOs?
Yeah, there's one journal in particular, Journal of Scientific Exploration, that might very well be an appropriate source for publishing the data. There are others, refereed or not. These are nevertheless, there are respected journals out there that do have a large following. And I will certainly try, and as well as other members of FREE, will certainly try to co-author articles exclusively in journals in various topic areas and see where that potentially goes. Obviously, we'll give presentations, not only to MUFON. I'm giving one in February. I hope to see you gentlemen there if you should attend. But again, who am I talking to? A select audience. I'm not going to really turn anybody on, or it shakes things up in the way that I want it to be for ufology to evolve. But I foresee certainly giving papers at more professional conferences that are scientific oriented, and certainly write books on it. It's going to be a slow evolving process, but if anything, yes, we have to educate the scientific community, try to arm twist them in a reasonable fashion, providing research that is at least in their minds relatively valid and reliable to spark understandable interest in this phenomenon. And that's something that just I can't understand. I truly can't understand. Is it just me? There's not many scientists out there who are engaged in research. And I'm saying, am I crazy?
Well, there's part of the problem here also, Bob, is that the coverage of UFOs and related phenomena is all about, these are ET believers. That's it. They're ET believers. You have this spin by the mainstream media, and it makes it more and more difficult as a result, all these years, ET believers, that this way mainstream scientists are reluctant to get involved because they think we're all a bunch of kooks. I remember, for example, the International UFO Congress in this area in February. And one year I read a story where it was all about abductees commiserating with one another. That's what the whole thing was about. Not that maybe there is a portion of people who are abductees who are communicating with one another and they get together at an event like this. It's everyone. It's that spin that makes it difficult to get what you want.
You're hitting it right on target. Not surprisingly, Gene. You do that quite frequently. Very
I resemble that remark.
Yeah. It's associated with New Age movement, and it's associated with leading ufologists who make extraordinary claims with a lack of supportive evidence. It's a combination of these factors among many others, besides the enigmatic, unbelievable, concept in and of itself. And of course, the lack of ridicule factor, among others, that simply turns too many off, as well as the general population. But yeah, it's regarded as a pseudoscience, and if anything, it should be turned into an established multidisciplinary scientific discipline. And that's where I want ufology to go. It's going to be a long, evolving process, but I think we need to try. And I'm speaking to everybody out there who represents the leadership in ufology. I commend all of you. I have great respect for you. Thank you for all you've done.
Okay, Bob, we're going to move into some listeners' questions, which we obviously every show. People can post their questions at forum.theparacast.com. When we know a guest is coming up and there's enough notice, we give listeners a chance to post their own questions so that it can be read out. And I'm looking at a few here by Eric the Red, who's been a forum regular for quite a while now. 2013 he joined. Some of his questions he's written are a little bit wordy, but I am going to actually take a stab at number 5 in his 7 questions he's put for you. And that is, if these contacts are happening as frequently as Free might believe they are, how is it then that this has not been captured on camera yet? Alien contact would be the discovery of human history, and yet no one has managed to set up a camera on a tripod to film this. It defies belief. This fact alone would add weight to the view that we're not dealing with actual contact at all, but rather a complex psychological confabulation process made popular and socially acceptable by mass media and New Age believers. How would you respond to that?
I would not make that cause-effect relationship there just because we don't have, pictures of their experience. I would not then draw the conclusion that it's confabulation based. Experience or recall via hypnotic regression certainly can create confabulation, but one possible explanation is that they prevent any videos of pictures being taken for obvious reasons. And we know that the phenomenon is associated with electrical interference in cars and other kinds of electronic-based equipment. And that might be at play here as well, although their motives may be, again, we don't want to shake up things too much by having everybody aware that we are here for whatever reason.
Let me do our break here and you continue with your answer. With Robert Davis, we have our guest co-host, Goggs Mackay, and Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Fully cooked, ready-to-eat bacon. I'm talking thick, meaty, center-cut presidential bacon. Savory and delicious. I buy some, I use some, I store some. Awesome. No refrigeration needed with a 10-year shelf life. NASA pack technology. Bacon. Fully cooked, fully hydrated, ready to eat right from the packed bacon. Or warm and served. Life-saving, ready-to-eat bacon. 10-year shelf life bacon. Ships free at fullycookedbacon.com. Fullycookedbacon.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states.
Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. people who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from PresidentialUFO.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Oh, we love to embarrass our guests. Okay, you had a long response to Goggs' question from our listener there. You want to pick up on it before we go to another question?
No, I think I've said all I can on that.
Okay, so I'm just going to go and choose a quickie now from Eric's Red again, and that is a major methodological problem is that a patently false ET contact story could look identical to one that allegedly isn't. How can we tell them apart?
Well, you can't. I'm sure there are many frauds as part of our survey. Many people who have psychological disorders as part of our survey. But here again, collectively, the evidence suggests that the vast sheer number of people responding in a similar fashion, excludes many of those types of individuals who fabricate, who come up with second stories for secondary gain for whatever reason. But it's a reasonable question, but you really can't tell it apart. It could be science fiction in part or not, but it's an understandable concern.
That's an honest answer, and I tell you, Bob, sometimes sometimes you're interviewing someone just like in real life or anything. With some people who are not very chatty, it's like getting blood from a stone. But I have to thank you that you're half doing the show for us, because we give you a question and you're just giving so much as an answer. But I want to get through a few, so we'll try and keep it brief. And that is, so I'm going to go to Technomage now. He's been around for a while too, and he often puts in very good questions. I'll go for one of the simple ones at the start here. Have you drawn any conclusions on the... I know you're going to say no conclusions. Let's say, what are your thoughts on the Betty Barney Hill abduction case?
My thoughts is very interesting, to put it mildly. Hard to know for sure whether or not there's irrefutable evidence to support what actually happened in the form of extraterrestrials. Independent communication by different hypnotists, or the same hypnotist, but on, again, two different occasions, revealed essentially the same story from each one. But again, it's regressive techniques, which is questionable. But yes, set the foundation, wheels in motion for possible psychocultural influences on the part of others who, focus in on that and somehow, also generate similar types of stories based on that experience alone, because the abduction scenario really was stimulated. The incidence of such stories skyrocketed after that initial widely publicized event. let me mention one thing regarding the survey data we have, and I appreciate the questions on the part of your audience, and I hope to hear more of them. The question we asked, if you could stop your ET contact experience, would you? 90% said no. 90% said no. Out of, again, over 2,800 with conscious recall. Do you feel there's some sort of grand plan in motion that experiences are all a part of? 90% said yes. Again, 42% said they feel they're involved in an alien breeding program. But the key point here is over 40% have been claimed to be abducted over 10 times throughout their life. That's not uncommon, and we know that. But why does such a vast majority say they don't want these experiences to end? In part because they realize it's a positive effect on their behavior, attitude, philosophies. And the question again is why? And I would think sociologists and psychologists alone would find that fascinating. And if the data maintain over time with a much more substantially large population base, which we will have worldwide, I don't know how researchers could ignore that alone, let alone everything else. It's impossible to understand and explain, but it certainly gets my attention more than anything else.
The thing that's always got me about the abduction phenomenon is maybe not yourself and free, but according to some researchers, it's just the numbers reported, and especially in North America. It seems to be, I don't know if it's due to a UFO culture or just the saturation of news media and what have you, compared to another country or landmass with a similar population. But the numbers are just frightening, if even remotely true. We're talking about, a sizable percentage of the population of the United States are apparently claiming to have had some kind of abduction experience. Now, I just want to quickly add in here, I have mentioned on shows past that I did have one kind of semi-waking experience that was kind of like abduction thing that I have absolutely no doubt was just some kind of, hypnagogic dream or sleep paralysis or something which I've had. I don't think I've been abducted. But weirdly, in the last few weeks, I noticed that on the back of my left hand, I've now got a perfect isosceles triangle of 3 marks. I'm not saying this is from any abduction stuff, but I know these have been seen before, and it's very weird to get 3 kind of spots or something that seem to be permanent fixtures. I've no idea where they came from. I don't remember the day they weren't there and the day they were, but and I'll maybe post a photo in the forum, but they're there. And I just wonder, if I was someone else having the fact that I'm claiming that, 10, 15 years ago, I did have some strange kind of experience that I just think was my mind. But now with this second thing, I'm just thinking, would another person or 50% of people with these 2 experiences in their life, would they go on to confabulate something, knowingly or unknowingly, not intentionally? So these are kind of my thoughts on abduction.
Well, I would. I think Gene did it. I wouldn't rule that out as a possibility. If I may. You think?
Well, I'll tell you something. They blame me for everything. There's very little that they don't blame me for. There are people who blame me because I've had financial difficulties in recent years. That's my fault. Well, I guess we can say maybe I could have done things differently, but we can't always blame people just because what happens to them is not what they like or you'd like to happen to them. It doesn't make any sense to me either.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. Yes, getting back to your point, certainly many people would come to the conclusion that the symptoms you're experiencing are related to an abduction phenomenon. But let's be objective. Let's not firmly make a conclusion without more. data, shall we say. It's unusual, yes, but it could be meaningless or it could be something. Let's see what else happens to over the next a few years. Maybe something is happening along these lines. It's certainly hard to say. And of course, alien abduction researchers have, of course, noted that in their sample population. People report that now as well. It's not an uncommon circumstance. Dr. Roger Lear obviously removed implants from individuals, and he said under analysis it was considered to be of non-earthly origin. I can go into some detail about it, but
I want to ask you about that maybe in our next segment, because we had the late Dr. Lear on the Paracast on a few occasions, and he seemed like a genial gentleman, and he kept making this claim about these removed implants exhibiting evidence of maybe being of non-alien origin. But has that been independently confirmed? That's a very important question, and I want you to get to that with our next segment. I would want to tell you, folks, that the best way to support the Paracast is to become a member of the Paracast Plus. Go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. We give you the commercial-free version of this show, the After the Paracast podcast, an exclusive show transcripts, videos, all sorts of stuff. And we have special deals if you get a 5-year subscription or a lifetime subscription. We've got such a deal for you. Such a deal is what my mother used to tell me in Brooklyn many years ago. Plus.theparacast.com. Dr. Robert Davis, Goggs Mackay, our guest co-host. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like someone or some company is tracking your every move online? I know I do. That's why I trust Private Internet Access VPN to keep me safe when I'm online. I use it to encrypt my traffic and use an anonymous IP address. Private Internet Access keeps your internet traffic safe from unwanted eyes so you can finally feel safe. $40 a year for peace of mind is a no-brainer. Sign up today at privateinternetaccess.com. Once again, that's privateinternetaccess.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, we have Robert Davis joining us. His book, which is in front of me, is called The UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe? So I posed a few questions or flies in the ointment there, Bob. Would you respond to them?
Regarding the implant evidence from Dr. Roger Lear, I suspect most of your listening audience is aware of his work. He was a podiatry surgeon. He had a great interest, of course, in the implant phenomenon, which people report to have received. Upon removal of these devices, which he contend actually moved away from his scalpel when he attempted to retrieve them, as if it had some type of reflexive nature to it. He said it was, if my memory is right, he said it was encased in a dense gray tough membrane composed of blood protein and skin cells, and there was no inflammatory process to the adjacent tissue, which is not customary for anything that's foreign being in the body.
I was just going to say, that he always would highlight the fact, the total lack of inflammatory response. I mean, this is a major thing that anytime you put a foreign body inside the human body, it has a response to kind of kill the invader, if you like. And the only things like, I suppose, medical steel or, whatever, clean metal, glass, plastic, are the only things that you may be able to slip into a body that will not produce such a response. But generally, and certainly if people are trying to argue, well, there's nothing unearthly about what's that? Somebody stepped on a nail, a bit's worked its way into the guy, he's forgotten about it. 10 years later, it's worked its way into a place where it's touching a nerve. Now he thinks he's got something. They have a look. But these objects he's pulling out, they don't seem to fit into that category, do they?
No, while there is some unusual biologic activity associated with it, it doesn't again mean that some alien put it in there for whatever reason. It's nevertheless unusual, but he said upon the analysis of the implants that they were basically, I think he called it meteoric in origin, and it contained over 10 different elements. But they did a lot of analysis, one being metallurgical analysis, which came back with the conclusion that it was, quote unquote, if my memory is right, extraterrestrial in origin, and it included metals or isotopic ratios, I think, of the metal composition that was concluded by those who were performing the analysis to not be from Earth. Well, I'd love to see that independently corroborated by other researchers. We need that by more than one to see if we get the similar conclusions. Above all, along these lines, in a sense, above all, I would love to give these individuals who claim to have repeated abduction experiences, of which there are many. It's very common, as you well know, to have repeated abductions over one's lifetime. Let's give them a DNA assay kit so that the next time they're abducted, they take it with them, right? And get some type of a skin sample. I say this kiddingly and not kiddingly. A skin sample, which obviously is not going to be allowed, possibly, and bring it back home. If we can get some DNA evidence, that above all will provide a basis for objectively confirming that we have some non-earthlings, so to speak, here. That would be significant. And maybe some future researchers will look at that as a distinct possibility, as absurd in principle maybe as it might sound initially. But there are certainly many other different types of approaches that should be initiated to better understand the phenomenon.
Right, Bob, I'm going to go back to the listeners' questions again from forum.theparacast.com, actually from a fellow Scotsman going by the moniker Spectre73, and he's got quite a simple question, and that is, do you think speculation on the who's and whys of the UFO phenomenon is important? Should we instead be focusing on the individuals who have the experience, what was happening in their life before and after? And I think we touched on that earlier on, but this is specific.
Yeah, we did touch upon that earlier, but that again is a very, very insightful comment and question. Yes, indeed. And the essence of where we need to go is just in that direction, which again, Free is attempting to do. Try to understand the essence of the experience by those who claim to have conscious recall of an encounter with some non-human intelligent being. If we can understand the so-called phenomenological aspects of it, the meaning and impact it had on their life from before, and the transitory effects that that experience had had after the experience, that would say a great deal, as well as trying to understand the psychological profile, obviously, of that individual. But yes, we did touch upon it prior, based on the positive transformative aspects of the encounter experience, relative to before and after the experience, which again is similar to those who have an NDE. But that is getting at the heart of the matter. Let's study the person. Let's try to figure out the true nature of their experience as best as possible. And that's what we're trying to do, not only from our surveys, which is somewhat cryptic, all or none, binary in nature, yes, no, increase, decrease, that's important, but the qualitative aspect of our research, the in-depth explanations that are being given to us, which again, we're going to follow up with very in-depth interviews on the same subjects that have responded to our surveys, and phase 3, the qualitative answers to 60 or so questions about various topic areas of the experience. That will provide, I think, some additional needed insight that hasn't been done before. We've had some small-scale studies in this general topic area done by a few others, many fewer people, basically under hypnotic regression. Kathleen Martin, for one, commend her work. She was a part of Free, and she will probably come back to us. She's done extraordinary work in that area. But again, her subjects were had hypnotic regression. Again, I'm not criticizing it, but I would prefer conscious recall for obvious reasons, many obvious reasons that I don't want to really get into now. It's not appropriate. But yes, the person that asked that question is right on.
What do you think about? Are you aware of kind of what goes on in ufology in, say, for instance, countries in the Far East, maybe Japan, China apparently has got, probably due to its population size, a very large UFO research population. Are you aware of any kind of parallel groups, if you like, that are investigating the same things that Free is, but in any, say, non-America's country or non-Europe country?
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with that, which is one reason why, again, we need to somehow put all of these organizations that are conducting research under one umbrella and share information. Otherwise, you can't make sense of all the data. It's independent in nature. We don't again analyze the total population base or have the similar methodology to explore the same questions that are being asked. So that's one reason why we need to do that. But here again, we are doing research with other scholars in many other countries.
We got more to come with Robert Davis, Gene Steinberg, Goggs, Mackay. You're in
the Paracast.
The award-winning Graphic Converter 10, the universal genius for photo editing apps on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for the Swiss Army Knife app. It gives you all the features that you expect, and most important, it's easy to use. You can get it for just $39.95 from www.lemkesoft.com. That's www.lemkesoft.com. As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap. But not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
Attention small business owners. Want to save money on your employee health insurance plan? Learn the little-known solution that could save thousands of dollars on your health insurance benefits and save your employees money, too. Call Health Markets for a free consultation, and one of our 3,000 local agents will show you how to make healthcare reform work for you. We'll design customized solutions for your business that can lower healthcare costs for you and your employees. We'll work directly with you to determine your needs. We search thousands of health plans from over 180 health insurance companies nationwide. You'll also find out if tax credits could save you money. Best of all, the service is free of charge. See why Health Markets has enrolled Americans in more than 2 million insurance policies. You don't have to wait for open enrollment to lower your cost. Call now. Find out how much you and your employees could be saving.
Representatives are standing by to assist you. Call 800-930-5137. That's 800-930-5137. 800-930-5137.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Will the government protect your family from Iran and North Korea's newest weapon, EMP? We buy guns to protect ourselves, home, health, and car insurance for accidents. Maybe you also have food storage. But how would you keep your refrigerator running in a long-term EMP blackout? Using tested military designs, the Solarc EMP-hardened solar generator protects and powers your critical appliances for years without burying items underground or wrapping them in aluminum foil. Unlike other preps, Solarc is used every day to help offset your electric bill automatically. Visit PortableSolarLLC.com to learn how easily expandable the system is. Solarc is the most affordable and powerful solution on the market. The whole system even fits in the back of a pickup or SUV and can install in less than an hour. See for yourself why Solarc beats other off-grid systems at PortableSolarLLC.com. Don't wait for the government. Go to PortableSolarLLC.com to learn why Solarc is energy insurance for your family.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body Brain and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
Chris O'Brien is on the road and unable to connect to us because he's kind of out of the area where he has decent cell service. We have Robert Davis, the author of The UFO Phenomenon. Our guest co-host is Goggs Mackay. Bob, you want to continue before we move on to other questions?
Yeah, briefly. Just about all countries have a variety of organizations that address this phenomenon. Here again, all the more reason to, so to speak, defragment the fragmented worldwide ufological effort. And how that's going to be accomplished, I don't know. That's quite a monumental task. But one question is, are there any psychocultural variables that are associated with the phenomenon? Because we do see that, for instance, with reincarnation evidence. Countries that have a pronounced belief in reincarnation tend to illustrate a higher incidence of individuals who claim to have past life recall. Well, do we also see that with respect to the UFO phenomenon? That's just an interesting variable to explore further, nevertheless, among many other variables. That's one reason why we're conducting this research worldwide. Maybe not completely, but we're incorporating certainly researchers in other countries.
I have to wonder that this, when we talked earlier, when I asked you earlier on about, what would we like ufology to look like if we were to kind of shake it all up and, bring it to a state that we'd like to see it in. And I'm kind of reminded of how a possible chance in the past, back in the 70s, when the president of Grenada was going to be making a request at the United Nations about forming a UN committee to look at the subject. And, at the last minute, there were some interesting people involved in that. Jacques Vallée was one of them, I believe. I know that the president, Eric Gray, I think his name was, or something like that, Sir Eric Gray, but he was persuaded kind of at the last minute to drop his official kind of question. And funnily enough, very soon after, obviously the island was invaded as well by America. And you've just got to wonder, was somebody putting the dampers down on that? Had that seed been planted then and been able to take hold, who knows where we may have been today. But, it does feel that, when you get to the top of government and stuff, this subject is nonsense. And I just don't know how we're going to break through that particular glass ceiling, even if Hillary Clinton were to become president, and she's made a couple of pronouncements about ufology, and obviously she's got John Podesta as on her ticket, not as a running mate, but obviously an advisor and possible cabinet member. But I don't think it would go anywhere with her. I don't see any American or British government or Russian government coming forward with anything. Probably not China either, but maybe a country like France, but certainly one of the South American countries. I think that's where we may look to get something going.
Yes, you're right. There are obviously some countries whose government is much more open about the phenomenon with the public at large. The United States is certainly not one of them, unfortunately. But, of course, we can't rely on any government to facilitate an organized governance structure and associated research effort of the phenomenon. We have to rely on me, you, and other people to do whatever may be necessary, by utilizing maybe some established organizations and modifying it in some way, or establishing a new organization from the ground up, like FREE, although FREE is not really a good example. But the point is that we need to get a group of dedicated people with the right credentials, mindset, mission, research capabilities, et cetera, an idealized approach, which I address in my book, UFO Phenomenon, Should I Believe, in terms of where we need to go in terms of the governance of this and associated research. But the point is, and I think we all can agree, and maybe some can't, we are in a state of disarray. This is not a unique perspective. And it's a very, very frustrating issue, a personal issue, as well as not only me, but many, many others I know share this position. We need to do something different. This is such a pronounced phenomenon that requires such dedicated attention by so many scientists and non-scientists to try to figure out what's going on, because the implications, if known, about what this phenomenon is could be quite significant, again, on an individual and societal level. And even if we did organize a new structure and conduct many different types of research by independent investigators, we still might not draw any conclusion or gain any additional knowledge that we already have. But the point is, we need to try to do something different. Again, I'm tired of reading the books about UFOs over Brooklyn and the Bronx and Long Island, and my aunt was abducted by XYZ. You know what I mean? There's too much of that nonsense out there. We all know that, and that's what turns off a lot of people in general, and obviously the scientific community. There's so much of this nonsense, and I don't know how to get across the notion that this should not be perceived as a new age pseudoscience. It should not be. There are so many aspects of the phenomenon that are so profoundly interesting and important and real and valid. And that's the only thing I will say with certainty. This is a valid phenomenon. That's all I can say.
Well, we talk about it all the time in the Paracast, in that, one opportunity should be for possibly enlightening some people, maybe we don't think we're going to get maybe the younger text mad, social media mad generation to physical conferences. But if we use the technology that they're interested in, Facebook, Tinder, whatever, all these, anything that, and just, anything electronic on the internet. But we need to move away from having serious researchers on the same platform as the fringe ones. And the really annoying thing for me is it seems that if you want to sell tickets to a conference, you have to almost, the ratio of big draw name to serious researcher name, it's about 5-1, as in you need 5 of the idiots who are not really teaching us anything and maybe full of crap, and to 1 serious researcher. But it's those 5 that the people are paying to go and see. They want to see certain people all the time, but they're not teaching them anything new at all.
Let's do our break here. Goggs Mackay is our guest co-host. Robert Davis is the author of UFO Phenomenon. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states.
Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937. Is negative content or comments on the web affecting your personal or professional reputation? Unfavorable comments, embarrassing pictures, videos, legal documents, and negative articles can ruin your personal life, your career, or your business. It happens a lot, and it's just not fair. But what can you do? ReputationDefender.com can help protect your good name. Get a free consultation now. Call 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Call right now for a free expert reputation analysis. It's easy to squash the unfair attacks with our patented system, and the analysis is absolutely free. Make the best things about you jump out in searches. Protect your personal and professional reputation, your business, and your income. Get your free reputation analysis from ReputationDefender.com right now. Call 800-831-0771. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Injury Help Desk is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention prescription antibiotic drug users. Have you or a loved one suffered an aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm after taking the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox? These popular antibiotic drugs have been prescribed more than 80 million times since 2004, and medical studies show an increased risk of the following injuries: aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, and abdominal aortic aneurysm. If you or a loved one used the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox and suffered from aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-823-3851. 800-823-3851. 800-823-3851.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. Pillows would go flat, I would flip-flop all night long, I would wake up with a sore neck, maybe a headache, or feel like I needed a nap even though I slept 8 hours. When I invented MyPillow, I wanted it to where you could move the patented fill to give you the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of sleep position. MyPillow will get you into that deep REM sleep faster, and you will stay there longer. It's not about how much time we spend in bed, it's about how much of that quality sleep we get. I do all of my own manufacturing right here in the United States. I have a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry my pillow, and I give you a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. And here's my best offer ever. You can buy one of my pillows and get one absolutely free.
Go to mypillow.com or call 800-870-0305 and use promo code GCN. That's mypillow.com or 800-870-0305 with promo code GCN.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Okay. It sounds like you wanted to become Porky Pig. I can't do that imitation. Only one guy in the universe could do Porky Pig, and that was the late Mel Blanc. The UFO Phenomenon is the book. Goggs was making kind of a commentary there, and I think Robert would like to answer.
Well, yeah, it's a reasonable idea. And we go to these conferences and we hear the same thing, maybe with a different twist. We hear the certain, spiritualist, metaphysical, hypnotic, regressive experiences that relate to abductions, and that's fine. And there may actually be considerable truth to a lot of it. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, a member of our Free, she is well aware, is a leading authority on all aspects of the paranormal, and she has considerable insight into this in terms of the association with the UFO phenomenon. Again, being one piece of a spectrum of paranormal events, but here again, I look at the scorecard where I'll be presenting at the International UFO Congress in February, and I'm going to present at a conference in Australia, and I'm looking forward to it for several reasons. But I look at the scorecard and the presenters and what they're talking about and who they are, and it's great. I'm going to listen. I try to listen to every one. But the point is this: we don't learn anything new about the phenomenon. Not that I'm going to present anything that's uniquely different, but I hope again to lay the groundwork for additional research to be done, stimulate interest, and that's my objective with Free. Let's try to get the ball rolling.
Let me just tell you something here. As you were talking, I was thinking about the old days of vaudeville, where you had a number of these acts, singers, comedians, whatever, and they'd have this fixed thing they do year after year. They have the thing that made them famous, the single act, the single skit. And they do it over and over again. This is before they had television. So they can do the same thing at every venue. And to the people there, well, maybe they saw it once or twice before and they like it. Or maybe it's the first time for them. Of course, with TV, you use up all your material. And sometimes I think with UFO conventions, people come out there, they do their thing, and then the next act gets up there and they do their thing, And it's like a UFO vaudeville show.
It is.
Yeah, and and they sell books in the process, which is all well and good, but it's hard to develop something new and different to study the phenomenon. I mean, that's why people focus on retrospective events. It is interesting, and they know people are interested in that. So it sells books, and thus they focus their attention on readership that is going to consume it in more than one way. But what's new and different? And there's nothing.
Well, what gets me is I can imagine, say I lived in Phoenix or something, I can imagine a circumstance in which maybe I'm trying to persuade a friend who's slightly open-minded, but not really into UFOs or anything. And I'm trying to persuade this friend to come along and see maybe a certain speaker at a local convention. And I arranged to meet the guy there, and off I go. And and maybe he turns up early. And as he walks in, the speaker on stage is maybe the one speaker I didn't want him to see, and he sits there and listens to, whatever, and, you were trying to get him to be exposed to a certain facts, certain points of view, whatever, and he comes there and sees all these people enthralled to a bit of a woo-woo crowd, true believer kind of thing going on. That person will just go, see, this is exactly what I thought they'd all be like. They'd be listening to stuff like that, which is obviously ridiculous. And, and this friend walks off not having even had his chance to have his mind changed because he was a bit early or something. But my point is in most things in life, you maybe can get to see, it doesn't have to be ufology, but you can get to see things that have a common theme or whatever. But it seems to be with ufology, you have to rub right up against things and people and points of view that are almost completely opposite to your own, but it's still under the umbrella of ufology. And to the people on the outside, they think that, we fall for it all, we believe it all and whatever. And how do we get away from stuff that's got no data?
Yeah, very insightful. I'm inclined to forget about ufology with this data and go to other more established, respected, scientific-based organizations like the Society for Noetic Sciences that Dr. Edgar Mitchell founded. For those who may not know, he was the sixth person to walk on the moon, a leading scientist, and he founded FREE as well. He passed away over a year ago. Remarkable individual on so many levels. But here again, he believed in the phenomenon, and he's a proponent of the quantum hologram theory. And several physicists as part of FREE also proposed that theory as a possible explanation for all paranormal events, not just UFOs. But here again, presenting our evidence not only at UFO conferences, but conferences of consciousness studies. In fact, Ray Hernandez and I are going to present a paper at a consciousness conference. This is where we need to publicize the kinds of results that we're obtaining, where we'll have an audience composed of more, let's say, a more scientific-oriented, less new agey kind of crowd. I'm not putting them down. I applaud everybody who has some degree of interest in it, but be objective, don't debunk, and I think it's great. Communicate about it. It's a fascinating topic on many levels. But here again, there are other alternative audiences other than the International UFO Congress, which again, I commend Alejandro Rojas, wonderful individual, has done a great deal for ufology, but Institute of Noetic Sciences, among other kinds of consciousness-based organizations, should probably be the focus of where we should present our research. I intend to, as well as physics, getting into aspects of the quantum hologram theory. We don't have time to get into it here, but that could be possibly explained as well, despite its controversial nature. And
So, Bob, I was just going to ask you, can you give us a quick thumbnail on the quantum hologram theory?
Very briefly, it's one aspect of a theory in quantum physics that also relates to the multiverse, the possible existence, in other words, of alternate realities or dimensions that coexist with ours. Hawking was a proponent of it. Mikhail Kaku, many leading physicists believe this to be the case. And it may provide the means by which consciousness could possibly exist apart from the brain. And the UFO phenomenon could be one line of evidence which supports this concept, as well as to explain NDEs and out-of-body experiences. Something having to do with the consciousness-brain distinction has been explained using holographic principles. Hammerhoff and Penrose, among other physicians, among many others, have looked at this and interpreted it in this way, as did Edgar Mitchell and Rudy Shield, again, who founded and is a member of our organization. But we get into the interconnectedness of matter that exists throughout the universe. You manipulate one here, and something light years away is going to respond in return. This might explain remote viewing, telepathy, which experiences contend that's the mode of communication.
Let's break here, and we'll continue with our final segment about the interconnectedness. Interconnectedness, what a concept, and also a pretty difficult word to say sometimes. Robert Davis, Gene Steinberg, Goggs Mackay, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Worried about lead, fluoride, and other contaminants in your drinking water? Get a ProPure with the Pro 1G 2.0 cleanable reusable filter and remove up to 200 contaminants. Drink water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure products, including the new ProMax shower filter. There's a ProPure for you. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like someone or some company is tracking your every move online? I know I do. That's why I trust Private Internet Access VPN to keep me safe when I'm online. I use it to encrypt my traffic and use an anonymous IP address. Private Internet Access keeps your internet traffic safe from unwanted eyes so you can finally feel safe. $40 a year for peace of mind is a no-brainer. Sign up today at privateinternetaccess.com. Once again, that's privateinternetaccess.com.
In these uncertain times, it makes sense to have a sustainable backup method to cook food and boil water. If your current plan includes using a fuel-burning stove or cooking over an open fire, then there's a much better way. The Minuteman Rocket Stove is a biomass-burning cooking stove that only requires small quantities of sticks and twigs for fuel. The Minuteman Stove is easy to use, smokeless, portable, powerful, and sustainable. For the finest in survival cooking stoves and fire starters made right here in the USA, go to MinutemanStove.com. That's MinutemanStove.com.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to paranormaldate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Now, in connection with what you were saying, Bob, about this interconnectedness that might explain remote viewing or telepathy, what about travel? Could one travel from one place to another instantaneously by some means on the same basis that we are interconnected somehow?
Teleportation. If you ascribe to some of the reports by, again, experiences, they contend that happens to them. They are teleported. Dematerialization occurs. Again, what governs that? Who knows? And quantum physics does address that at some level. Obviously, we do not have confirming empirical evidence to support it, but mathematically, conceptually, it may very well be real, yet to be proven, of course. It's not getting into time travel, which Stephen Hawking, does not agree with, but teleportation may in fact be the case in terms of consciousness, especially being teleported. The non-locality of consciousness, the ability to perceive events at a distance from the physical body that's deemed accurate in terms of obtaining information from elsewhere without using the ordinary senses. And people with the NDEs and vertical OBEs, out-of-body experiences, at least there's been evidence that tends to support that in many individuals. So, what is it that's proved that consciousness and the brain are two separate independent entities? They are dependent at one level, but not on another level. And once the brain or the hard drive ceases to function, then consciousness may potentially persist in another realm of existence, in a different time and space, in another alternate dimension. I know these are very vague, hard to wrestle with terms, but this is the concepts that are thrown out in the field of quantum physics. It's hard to grasp, but I encourage individuals to read a bit more about quantum physics, which might potentially explain this. However, when people are abducted and they ask questions about, what the heck's going on here, sometimes answers are given about quantum physics. And one common thread is that our notion of quantum physics, so reported, is immature. But we may be on the right track. Nevertheless, the coexistence of alternate dimensions is a common theory, yet to be proven, obviously. But the quantum hologram theory of consciousness tries to explain these various modalities of contact experiences with non-human intelligences. And we're trying to get a better understanding, if we can try to associate these types of experiences with principles of science. And boy, that's easier said than done, obviously. And we may be able to make a small dent in the overall picture. But again, we need to provide some degree of foundation by which other scientists in the future can build upon and possibly expand this into a model that is validated or not. And that certainly remains to be seen. But this is the direction ufology needs to go. And I'm not counting on ufology, MUFON, etc. to do it. They don't have the means to do it. They don't have the personnel to do it. And that's why we need a new ufological mission organization. I'm not looking to run it, but all I'm saying is something dramatically different must happen in order for us to gain some degree of understanding of this most profound and perplexing phenomenon that begs for attention by mainstream science and the public at large. And until we do initiate this organized effort, process, we're going to be twiddling our thumbs and wasting our time going nowhere trying to understand this phenomenon.
Robert, you'll be aware of the term the invisible college, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder, I'm sure I've heard it was obviously probably on the Paracast, I'm sure I've heard relatively recently that maybe guys like Jacques Vallée are involved in some research right now, but they're being anything but public about it. And I wonder if, because I think America probably is the last place where your ideas of a new, open, maybe multidisciplinary look at these basically a lot of things all boiling down to consciousness, really. You know, I wonder, is this going on already, but just because of the way the subjects are perceived that maybe nobody's talking about it, so in a way it's kind of secret itself. It may already be going on.
It may very well be. And yes, I do get a sense that consciousness, quantum physics are key underlying parameters that must be explored further in regards to this and among many other phenomena. I'm almost certain, no evidence to support it, but I'm almost certain that whomever, wherever, part of the CIA, military, who knows, or think tanks, independent researchers, yes, are focusing their efforts in this direction. I think a lot more is understood, known about things we're talking about this phenomenon that we do not obviously have access to. And we want the government or whomever to disclose what they know of Roswell and you know the Disclosure Project and things that Dolan talks about and others. That's all well and good. Excuse me, waste of time. What we need to do is get disclosure, however, on just what we're talking about, possible ongoing research in these areas by key individuals who are not going to disclose this information, I think for obvious reasons, but they're onto something. And I think this is what we're getting from our research. This is the direction. We may be wrong, but I think this is the direction, consciousness, quantum physics, and other associated issues. But these are the key elements that need to be researched. And yes, it is likely occurring in some way, shape, or form, for whatever reasons, I don't know, well, to understand the phenomenon. To whose benefit, not entirely sure. But the point is, the public at large, not secretively, should be engaged in similar type of efforts. And we certainly have personnel worldwide who are more than willing to do that. How we unify that effort, how we provide funding for that effort are the key questions.
Do you expect, we have only about a minute or so to go here before I get closing credits. So Bob, do you think we're going to see any success at all, even if we don't throw out ufology, but if we do and give it a graceful burial at long last, do you see any real progress? As you say, maybe not in our lifetimes.
Progress, yeah, probably not. I think we'll gain more insights from individual experiences that may set a good foundation for further research to explore the essence of the experience. That, I think, is the key, the impact on the individual, the transformative effects these experiences have, its correlation with other types of phenomena. Yes, indeed. Trying to connect the dots, which is easier said than done. Ufology, the way it stands, they'll never get at the issue at hand. They'll never uncover what's going on by a long shot. Long shot. They're on the first step of a ladder that reaches to the World Trade Center. We're going nowhere. Nevertheless, it's entertaining. It's interesting. We've learned a lot. I commend you all, people. I commend you all, researchers who have focused attention, who have done research. You're wonderful.
Robert Davis, please tell our listeners quickly how they can find out more information about what you do.
My website is the UFOphenomenon.com. That pretty much will tell it all. I've obviously been on other radio shows. They can find that on my website and Google. But more importantly, listen to your show, which I have great respect for. You do wonderful, wonderful work. I've been a big fan for many years. And focus on what the research is that FREE is undertaking, experiencer.org. We share our survey results.
You can find us on Twitter if you look for the Paracast. Look for the Paracast on Twitter. Look for the Paracast Fan Clubs, plural. On Facebook, check out the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com for the commercial-free version of this show, the exclusive After the Paracast podcast, show transcripts, videos, a whole lot more, and for lifetime and 5-year subscriptions, free ebooks, lots more coming. Learn more, how to sign up, plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. Robert Davis, thank you for joining us on the Paracast.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much. You've been wonderful hosts.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.